Can you talk to us overall about kind of the money side of things and how much kind of the overall cost of this went into to make these precautions and the changes?
Yeah, after Winter Storm Elliott last year, TVA came together and with some extra funds, and I could just tell you that they have really went all in on this, so this event like this doesn't happen again or lessens the chances of it happening again. Fiscal year 24, in the first 3 months, TVA has spent alone $123 million just on winterization efforts, and they've also dedicated another $130 million for the rest of fiscal year 24 for resiliency and reliability efforts.
Is that to do much of the same work you've done at this plant?
Speaking at the gas level plant, like I said, we didn't have a whole lot of issues here at John Sevier, but we have learning teams across the valley. I mean, we go from Mississippi to Kentucky, Alabama. We're all spread out. And some issue that may happen in Kentucky, we would never think to happen here. But we take that lesson and we're like, what can we do to potentially avoid that issue here at John Sevier? So if somebody had exposed equipment or leaking insulation, basically all the TVA across the fleet, we went through just on our insulation, our heat trace, and revamped the whole thing. You can see what is working, you go through and check the circuits, what the heat temperature is and all that, if it's live or dead, and then you go through, replace the heat trace. And a huge part of that is not just putting heat trace. If you don't put the insulation on that to ensure that it's going to hold up to the weather conditions, it's all null and void. Next big rain or something, it's just going to happen again. So TVA has really gone above and beyond to just take care of any potential issues that might come up. And we've always had like little canopies around outside equipment, but one thing we weren't expecting this last time was the intense wind, the wind chill. And so where something may have a lot of insulation on it, that wind chill is still going to get it, a pipe in your house or anything like that. So we built temporary structures that would withstand the wind, the temperature, to make sure that everything in there is going to be nice, warm, dry. And we also have invested in extra heaters, extra heat trace if anything like that is needed, if something goes out during the storm. So we always keep these supplies on site now, and the trailer that y'all saw earlier.
For people who say maybe these winter preparedness measures should have been put into place sooner, what do you have to say to those folks? I know you were talking a little bit about the wind chill. Was that the first time you guys have seen that cold of a wind chill before?
I can't speak if that's the first time we've seen that wind chill, but I think it was just a trifecta. It was the perfect storm. Temperatures dropping so fast, the cold temperatures, the wind chill, it just, normally you have 2 or 3 days to prepare for these storms, and this one just came out of nowhere. It's like getting off for the weekend and like, whoa, we're gonna have a busy weekend, if you remember Elliott last year. So I can't say that we would have changed anything. We're just here to get better. If we weren't aware of the concerns or the conditions, we couldn't do anything about it. Since we're exposed to it, we've seen our hard spots, we've come back, we've taken care of them, we've repaired them, and we're just going to move forward. And we're hoping that these were going to get us through another winter, and if we see any other conditions or concerns, we're just going to keep building these. TVA has committed to making these units reliable and to continue to make low cost, reliable energy for across the whole valley. So this is our business, and we're here dedicated to make sure that you have your power at your house. And anything we could possibly do to make that happen is what we're here to do.
Would you say after all of the precautions you guys have put in place, do you feel better prepared if this were to happen again? Like, do you think people would have to go through a rolling power out or anything like that?
I can't speak to the rolling power outage because you never know what may potentially happen. I do know the concerns that we had here, we have rectified those. Now, if something comes out that we didn't know about or didn't happen in another plant, there's always that potential something might happen. But like I said, taking the lessons from the coal plants and the dams and all that, and we all work together as a team. It's generally the same components at every plant. You want to keep it dry. You want to keep it warm. You want to keep it protected from the elements and the wind. And so just doing all that work, I feel confident here at John Sevier, to TVA as a whole, across all the fleet, that we're going to have a very successful winter, and I think we're set up for success.
Anything else?
Winter preparedness is not, I feel like we're kind of having this misconception that you guys were never looking to prepare for winters, and I'm sure you were. First of all, this isn't the first time that you guys have looked at winter preparedness, but what made this one different?
Okay, so part of TVA's policy is we do have a winter readiness preparedness. We get that stuff ready to go. We have certain list of jobs that we have to do on site, at every site. And you close these work orders out and everything. And that's just getting you ready for the winter. That's checking your tanks are drained, making sure you have all this. When I say winter readiness now, that takes on a whole different meaning from previous TVA envision. We've now been preparing for adverse winter conditions here at John Sevier and across the valley for almost a year now. We have taken it to a whole nother level. We've gone in depth. We have brought in specialized companies dedicated to analyze our heat trace, see where the issues are, what kind of buildings can we put here. Different vendors coming in to ensure that we're getting the best product for the best price to protect our assets. So I think from now on, it's just taking on a whole different meaning.
Did plant age, the age of these plants, did that have any factor in the event that happened last year?
I would say here, no. Not that this is a new plant. I would say this is a relatively new plant. It's only 11 years operating. The issues that we had here are there again, a water pipe freezing. You could build a brand new house and it's going to be the same condition in your house.
Altogether, we're about 888 megawatts in 3x1 operation. That's our peak. Kind of a general rule of thumb, 1 megawatt's 1,000 homes. But it's not just us out there. There's a lot of other plants, a lot of other technologies, all working towards providing power to the grid. We're pretty proud of this site. Everybody takes a lot of ownership. And one of those things is getting better, always trying to get better. And one of the things we did over the past couple of years is installed some of what is called heat trace. And so heat trace basically wraps around a pipe and provides heat. There's a shield on the outside, a braided shield in between that, and then the electricity runs through there, and that heats the cable up wherever it's mounted to. And then on top of that is about 1.5 inches. This is called mineral wool. There's different types of insulation. So 1.5 inches of that. So we've made some insulation repairs as well. And then all of that's covered with a sheet metal covering to make sure that stays dry. And we've done probably, I wouldn't even guess. I could ask our insulator. We've done quite a bit of insulation repairs. I don't have a good number for that. Over the past year and a half. In addition to that, we've built a lot of enclosures, windbreaks, as a way to prevent some of that cold temperature, cold winds that can come through, and prevent it from causing any freezing issues.
If you just want to kind of talk about what you guys have been doing to prepare for the winter weather and kind of what's changed from last year to now.
We know this low curtailment plan has been in place many years, and TVA and the local power companies practice that every year. And it's ironic, it was like 3 weeks before the outage last year. We had just gone through that again. But there were lessons learned. When you say you're going to do certain things and it doesn't deliver the load you thought it would, we learn lessons. That's got to do with temperature and time of the year being Christmas. But So we tightened our load curtailment plans, and we're always in the substations. And, you know, we don't take things out for maintenance in cold or really hot weather. We work seasonally, so everything's operational. We didn't really have any issues with this one, just being able to help with the load.
Yeah, I guess I can ask one. How confident are you guys heading into this year if you see another Elliott storm that it won't be the same thing that we saw last year?
Well, I think it's improved. I mean, I can't say it wouldn't happen again. You know, that was a very unique storm where there was no power available anywhere in the east. But I think we're better prepared. TVA has made several advancements at their plants to insulate what you're going to see today, lines and instrumentation. That was a problem in the last one that I trust they made a big effort to fix. And but for us, we have the ability to serve the load locally. So we don't have any problem with it. I think we've got a much better chance of weathering it this time than last year.
And just how bad was it in Morristown last year? Do you have a number of how many outages you did see?
We did some 15-minute rolling blackouts of residential load, but the load curtailment plan requires you to first go to industrial load and interruptible customers. So we went and asked for industry to volunteer to reduce. Morristown has a whole lot of industry, but they were down at Christmas, so there wasn't a load. That was a lesson learned. It wasn't there, but we thought we'd get. So, I mean, they cooperated. Nobody complained, and you know, they don't like 15-minute blackouts, but compared to systems around TVA, that was good performance. I think if you look collectively, all 153 of us in TVA, we got through this thing with just some rolling, you know, minor rolling blackouts versus days out of systems around us. So the public was very supportive of it. So.
Talk to us a little bit about what your customers dealt with last year, what y'all saw with the storm and everything.
So we dealt with the same thing that everybody in the valley dealt with. TVA gave us a call, pretty short notice, and said, look, we need you to start dropping load. And so we pulled our plan out and just started opening breakers and doing 20-minute rolling blackouts. And it was pretty inconvenient, but our customers realized it wasn't the end of the world, and they dealt with it.
How are you preparing heading into this winter season?
So we're always preparing. People that don't know power systems, we're always trimming trees, we're always maintaining our system, we're always changing poles, and so we're doing the same things. I have a great board that understands the need to do that maintenance, and so we're doing that. We did make some changes. As was mentioned, the emergency load curtailment plan, we had never got to that stage of that plan before, and so there was some room to improve that and be able to get the word out to the media a little bit better. And so we've done that, and I don't believe we're going to need it. I feel confident going into this winter, but I think we're better prepared.
How confident are you going into this winter season?
Well, you're going to see some of the improvements that have been made, but I'm thankful that TVA took this whole issue serious, and they invested lots of money and put some remediation in place, and so I'm very confident that we're in a much better position this year than we were last year.
What did you hear from some of your customers last year dealing with these rolling blackouts?
You know, customers, you always have some that just it's worse than it may seem, but overall customers were understanding, and frankly, you know, it was inconvenient to them, as I mentioned, but they dealt with it. And you know, one good thing that came out of it, there's a lot of fear of what's going to happen. It's Christmas, and I'm getting ready for my guests, but I think they understood 20 minutes was not the end of the world, and they went on.
This might be a bit of a silly question, but can you explain kind of what a rolling blackout is, just like in layman's terms?
So in layman's terms, it's like turning the switch off that feeds your house and just putting you in the dark for a period of time. And so that, I think, different utilities through the valley range from probably 15 minutes up to 30 minutes. We were in 20 minutes, and then we turn that back on and we move to a different area of the system. So typically that's done at the substation level and takes a whole area of the community out at one time, and then it gets restored.
Thank you.
So the damage that's sometimes caused by those is pipes freezing, pipes breaking when the water comes on. Was there a lot of that in Greene County?
There was. I don't know that that was directly related to the rolling blackouts because 20 minutes is usually not enough time to cause that, but the cold weather we experienced did have a lot of water issues, kind of separate from this TVA issue.
You mentioned that this plant wasn't really one of the plants that were a majority of the problem plants. What plants were some of the areas that had the problems, and are these fixes directly related to those?
So that's largely a TVA question, so I'm gonna defer that one to TVA, but my understanding is all the lessons they learned from the other plants were applied to this plant.
Tell us a little bit about, first of all, how much this plant was really a part of the actual problem during that last storm, and also is all those problems that came up a direct reason why all these repairs have been made?
So there was some shared pain kind of across the fleet. We weren't immune from all of that. We had some minor issues as well. Most of our changes came from fleet learnings, other plants that had issues, kind of being able to kind of borrow and share with those and to make changes here that reflected what they saw.
You guys have been doing this a long time. What were the factors that led up to, I mean, you've been kind of operating this way for many years. What were the factors that led up to last year's circumstances that caused all this?
Make sure I understand your question. Can you repeat that?
Well, like, you guys have had safety, precautions and all these different things in place and have had that for years.
Right.
What were the factors of last year's storms that really caused you guys to make changes?
I would just think the magnitude of the temperature shift, as well as the amount of time it happened. We went from 40 degrees to 20 to wind chills of negative. So it was just pretty much the magnitude of the change and the duration that we just had never experienced.
Did that temperature change cause some failures in some power plants?
There were some failures, especially if you think about plants that are like a gas plant where there's some elemental exposure. You're going to take kind of the brunt of all that wind, all that cold at the same time.
So you showed us the insulation. Is that to address those problems?
So that's to address some of those problems. The heat trace as well, being able to heat the pipe externally. Usually when we're generating, it's high temperature steam already, so we're talking 1,000 degrees. So the likelihood of freezing is pretty low, but there's some smaller lines and smaller systems. So just trying to harden those and make those more robust was the reason behind the heat tracing and insulation.
Okay.
Heading into this winter season, I guess what would be the worst case scenario to have to implement rolling blackouts again?
Having never experienced what we experienced last winter, I would hope nothing worse than that. It would have to be some very cold temperatures along with wind, and moisture would be added in there, would be that trifecta.
What is the age of this plant, and what is kind of the average age of all the plants that TVA is using, and how often does that give you opportunities to really grow in as far as new technology?
So this plant was commissioned in 2012, so that's when it became commercial power. So it's only 11 years old. You have some gas fleet items that are in the 20-year range. If you look at coal and hydro, some of those are older than TVA itself. So there's quite 100 years of different technologies. Your nuclear built in the 70s. So technology is always changing. We've got some projects in for what they call smart heat trace panels, which kind of give you some direct feedback. So you know how hot your heat trace is, how hot your piping is, and you can know fairly instantly if you've got an issue. We have something similar to that here. It feeds into our control room, so where we have an instrumentation box, we can know pretty instantly if there's a problem out there. Additionally, TVA had a company come out and do heat trace insulation and instrumentation box assessments, and that happened at every single gas plant, coal plant, nuclear, or even hydro. So instead of us looking and saying, this is where our problems are, we had a third party who was kind of instrumental in us making those changes.
With these improvements and upgrades, what is your confidence level heading into these colder months now?
I know with the amount of work that we've done over the past year, I'm definitely much more, I'm prepared. I think we're prepared. I think that enough work is went in and enough of the right work that we're in a good spot.
Do you know how much TVA spent on this plant and system-wide to address these issues?
A number around 8 million is what I've heard system-wide. I could not speak completely to this plant's budget.
8 million?
Fleet-wide.
Okay.
What kind of challenge is it for you? It seems like every power plant, especially the TVA has, they're all a little bit different. This one is a multi-option. How does that come into play? What kind of challenges does that give you? Because you're not dealing with plants that are all identically the same. You have numerous different plants with total different technology. How does that become a challenge for you?
Well, for one, I only worry about this plant most of the time. So, but we do have several peer teams that get together, and we try to share those ideas. One idea that came from kind of the difficulty we experienced that night. Some of the guys that are in my crew came up with essentially a trailer that is full of extra heat trace, extra electrical cables, small heaters, diesel-powered heaters, insulation, tarps, all in one spot. So it's kind of a grab and go, take it to where you might be having difficulty. So that's something we shared with the fleet as well, that's an option that they can use. So regardless of technology, those same issues still kind of exist, that things get cold when it's cold.
Seems like the problems you have sound very similar to the problems that residents have. It's insulation. It's something that sounds simple, but actually causes a big difference, obviously. For you guys, what could the general public, what could your consumer do to help alleviate this problem as well?
Yeah, I'm not saying they need to go out and get another company to come in and assess them, but there's lots of resources. You know, something as simple as a point and shoot temperature gun, see if you have issues in your insulation around windows. You know, having an insulation company come out, check your crawl spaces and attics, make sure those are adequate. You know, a lot of things that my grandparents did still work today, putting plastic up around the windows when nobody had double paned or tempered glass. And just kind of taking a step back and looking at, you know, what if this happens again, what could I be better about than last year? There's pipe insulation and heat trace. The same stuff we're using is available for residents. So this building here we built since last winter. One of the areas we saw that we had issues was being able to kind of keep control of the weather. As you can see, the wind comes straight down through here. And I pulled an insulation pad back here. You can see that 1.5 inch throw of insulation, and that's the heat trace that goes around there. So basically we just covered that back up when you get a couple pictures. It's insulated on the inside. We probably built 8 or 9 of these structures. And then there's some additional style we built on the other side. I'll show you when we get through.
So what exactly are we looking at here?
So the system, this is actually what's called a sludge blow down and sludge recycle. So we take in river water, which of course is muddy river water. We mix some chemicals to allow it to fall out. So that's what we call the sludge. The sludge is then pumped out, and we have a filter press that just kind of squeezes all the water out of it, and then that can be disposed of naturally.
This seems just like such a quick, a quick fix. Was it just something not, that was needed to get done, and then just finally like the bad storm came, so then it was like, oh, now we need to get all these in place?
Actually here, all this was heat traced and insulated, but it still couldn't stop the wind. It was so strong and so cold.
Was the shed building, was it here already before?
That was built post.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
When a storm happened.
So this was all exposed?
Correct.
Was it insulated before also?
Insulated, yes.
Okay.
So this guy's new.
Is this room heated also?
Yes, there's small space heaters on each side here. Kind of stage some supplies and kind of show you what we have there. Like I said, it was pretty much employee generated. something they felt difficulty with, and then we kind of acted on pretty quick and got it together. So we have all those winter readiness supplies in one place. Someone had mentioned, I believe it was this guy, about residential and industrial being similar. This is temporary heat trace. You can get it at Home Depot or Lowe's. We use the same stuff for temporary fixes here. So we've got a whole box of different sizes of that. Plenty of cold rated electrical cord. We've got tarps, we've got tie wraps. You can see the diesel heaters, the smaller electric heaters. So just kind of everything in one place. We can hook up, take it to where it's needed, and be able to go into action pretty quick. Previously, some of this stuff was stored in different places, so now it's kind of a one-stop shop.
Have you had to break into this stuff yet?
Thank goodness no. It's not got cold enough long enough to really have to delve into it. So hopefully won't, but if we do, it's all right here.